Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yasanubhava Satamika, Adhadikamaditi Santananda, Sansarinam, Paranaya, Puranavani, Tam Yasamopiyami Guru Munina. Hare Krishna. So I seek blessings of all the devotees so that we can discuss on lesson number 2 today. So we are discussing how Vyasdev, by seeing the anomalies of Kali Yuga, discrepancies in Kali Yuga, he thought to do some benefit for the people of Kali Yuga. And that's why he meditated. And then he decided to divide Vedas, which was one, Veda means knowledge, into different sections. So he divided it and handed over one section to one professors. Prabhupada calls it professors, the people who would promote a particular Veda or a part of Vedic knowledge. And now we'll go further in the next verses. So text number 23. So after it was handed over to these professors, what did they do? We learn in this particular text. So somebody can just read the translation purport of 23.
All these learned, sorry, Prabhu. Dhananjay Prabhu, please go ahead. Sorry, Prabhuji.
Text 23, this translation, all these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples and great grand disciples, and thus the representative branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. Purport: the original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge broken into different branches by different disciplic successions has been distributed all over the world. No one therefore can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. Hare Krishna.
So in this way, Veda means knowledge, and all the knowledge of the world comes in the category of Vedas only. Now certainly, we can't call the relative knowledge to be the knowledge of the Vedas, because it can be wrong. So the knowledge which is speculative can't be categorized in the category of Vedas, because Vedic knowledge is free from 4 defects. So any knowledge is free from 4 defects comes in the category of knowledge of Vedas. So that is how. So all the people, all sort of knowledge are encompassed within the Vedas. Even the atheist cannot say that we have a philosophy which is separate from Vedic knowledge. So one time we had classes regarding Sardarshan. So we were trying to contemplate with all our devotees that how all these atheistic philosophies nowadays, they are like toddlers in terms of the atheistic philosophies explained in the Sardarshan. So even atheists are accommodated in the Vedas or in the Vedic umbrella. And slowly, Vedas help them to move toward theism. So out of 6 darshan, the 5 ones, they're atheistic, or you can say temporarily or partially theistic. And slowly, people move on to Vedanta Sutra. In Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva refutes all other 5 darshans. So that is how people can get elevated. So in this way, all the knowledge of the world, whether it is Sankhya Yoga, Karma Mimamsa philosophy, or the theory of atoms, so all these philosophies are within the Vedic umbrella. So nobody can claim that there is some independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. And that is the reason in Vedic times, people would quote Vedas. Like in Bengal, there is a culture, they say, if you are speaking like that, is it Veda Vakya? So I've seen the elderly people who are like beyond 60 or 60 plus. When they have a debate, generally they say, hey, what are you saying? Is it Veda Vakya? So that culture is there. That is that knowledge based on Vedas or not? Please read 24th and 25th along with purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 25. Out of compassion.
24th also.
Sorry, 24. Yeah. Thus, the great sage Vyasdev, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Text 25. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice-born. Purport. The friends of the twice-born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities.
Just a minute. Okay.
Yeah. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhana Samskar. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. The Garbhadhana Samskara is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskara, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskara, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with the Shudras and the woman class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the woman class do not have to undergo any samskaras save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy. And therefore, the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. Vyasdev and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual students can enter into spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So, Janam Jayate Sudra, Samskaras Bhavidvaja. So, by birth, everybody is Sudra, and it is by spiritual initiation that a person becomes a Dvija or twice born. So, Dvijayate means the person who is born again, second time. So, Dvija, birds like birds are called Dvija. First egg is born from the bird, and then the baby bird is born from the egg. So second time born. So similarly, first birth is from the parents and second birth one gets from the guru. So that's why how person of Dvija. But for those who don't have Garbhadhan Samskar, so then such people, they don't get the impression. That impression, spiritual impression is not there. Samskar basically means the impressions found in the mind. So then such people are counted among the Sudras and women, because generally they are not considered very philosophical. But then for those who are not philosophical, the same knowledge of the Vedas is given in the form of stories. So when Puranas are there, Mahabharata is there, in those texts, the same philosophy is given in the form of stories, so that ordinary people can also understand the same philosophy. And that is the reason Prabhupada would say that you can't reject Mahabharata or Purana saying that they are wrong or they are relative. So they are not relative, rather same message is explained in more detail through the various stories. So Mayavadis or followers of Shankaracharya, they don't accept the Mahabharata and the Puranas, whereas Vaishnavas accept Mahabharata and Puranas. And the simple argument is Prabhupada gives at many places is that if Mahabharata and Puranas were wrong, why would Vyasadeva spend his time or waste his time in writing such great literatures? So it's out of compassion Vyasadeva had written them very, very elaborately with so many examples and stories. Like a teacher may be PhD qualified, but when he comes in front of students, he teaches according to the level of students. So if he goes in a kindergarten, he would teach ABCD. He would not teach alpha, beta, gamma, and integration and different things. So that is how Vyasadeva has given or explained the same knowledge in a way that ordinary people can understand in the form of Puranas. And Mahaprabhu has made it much more simple by directly giving the process by which we can easily achieve transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that is how, so Prabhupada writes, only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. Because the end of knowledge is achieved after the thorough research. But somehow we have already got the result of that thorough research. Like somebody can tell how Mahaprabhu gave the Vedanta or essence of Vedanta to all of us. It is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, Diksha Mataji. Yes.
Prabhuji, I have not read it properly, but whatever I think I have heard it, that Achintya Bheda philosophy. Prabhuji.
Yeah. So one thing is
And second point I want.
Mhm.
Achintya, yes.
Okay. Anything else? Somebody can add to this point. So certainly Achintya Bheda based philosophy where all the Vedic verses are accommodated together. Because there are verses which talk about difference between us and the Lord and similarity between us and the Lord. So both of them are accommodated by philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. When the sannyasis of Varanasi, they criticized Lord Chaitanya. So what did Lord Chaitanya answer? Then Lord Chaitanya speaks about it. Diksha Mata has to speak further or someone else want to speak?
Yes, Prabhuji, I want to speak if others.
Okay.
So recently went to Varanasi, so I had heard this part, whatever I can remember, that Mahaprabhu had shared that I am a fool, but my spiritual master gave me this knowledge, gave me the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and one point was that, and the second point, Sorry, I'm not able to remember, but this one point I wanted to make, that regarding that Srimad Bhagavatam ka essence hai, the last part of the Bhagavatam, last verse of Bhagavatam says that the holy name is the essence, Naam and Pranam. So Mahaprabhu had told this to the sannyasis there.
Okay, thank you. So you got the point. We need some explanation. Adbhut Devapru, he wants to speak something.
So actually, at the time, Mahaprabhu said that Gur Mohe Murti. So say Mahaprabhu said actually he doesn't have the authority to, his guru sees that he doesn't have the authority. That's why actually Mahaprabhu said that his guru only ordered him to chant only holy name.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Duti Mataji, you want to speak?
Yes, Prabhuji. So basically, like as the devotees have previously mentioned, that Mahaprabhu declared that his spiritual master told that he's not very qualified. So he told him that to understand Vedanta, you must chant the holy name of Lord, because that itself is the essence of Vedanta philosophy.
Mhm.
So this is what Mahaprabhu told when he defeated the Advaitwad in Varanasi.
Yeah, thank you. So this was something I was looking for. So Mahaprabhu speaks there. He tells that although Shankaracharya may be speaking, that there are verses which are Mahavakya, like Tattvamasi, I am that, and this and that. But we have to learn from the writer himself that what is the essence of the scriptures. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Pranava Sarva Vedesu. So I am Pranav Omkar. And same Omkar is expansion of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when I'm chanting Hare Krishna, actually I am reading Vedanta. And you people, you are reading Vedanta, but you can't understand Vedanta. Because Mahaprabhu was a well-known scholar by that time. And then he speaks that my guru told me that you are a fool, you can't understand Vedanta. That means you people are more foolish, you can't understand Vedanta at all, just by reading Vedanta. But already the essence of Vedic scriptures is given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. And there he says, Pranava Sarva Vedesu. So that's why when I am chanting Hare Krishna, I'm actually reading Vedanta. You people are not reading Vedanta. Prabhupada explained that in a beautiful purport. So that is how Mahaprabhu has given that freely, the postgraduate philosophy in such a simple way, that such an essence is available to anyone and everyone in such a simple way. So that's the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here. And Lord Chaitanya is propagating this philosophy. Like this verse is also there. Vedeste sarver aham vedyo, vedankrit vedvit echa. So there also Vishwanath Thakur gives a very beautiful purport. He writes that Krishna says, Vedeste sarver aham vedyo. From all the Vedas, I am to be known. So Arjuna gets a question. You are saying you are to be known, but some people say Shiva is to be known, some say Kali is to be known, some say Brahman is to be known. So then Krishna says, Vedant Krit. I am the compiler of the Vedas as Vyasdev. So if you want to know the purpose of a book, ask from a writer. Similarly, I am the one who has compiled the Vedas, so I know the essence, whereas other people, when they say they know the essence, they don't know the essence. Vedant Krit. That's why Ved with, I am the knower of the Vedas. So that's how Lord clearly declares there that the essence of the Vedas is to know me. So these are the essential points of the Vedas, not the great statements spoken by Shankaracharya. So Shankaracharya is speaking from his own contemplation or his own head. But as far as essence of the Vedas is concerned, Mahaprabhu says it is understood from Krishna himself. So that's how he proves the chanting of Hare Krishna is the essence of the Vedas. Duti Gopi Mata, you want to say something more? Or hand raise?
No, Prabhuji, I'll just.
Okay. Okay. Diksha Mata, you want to speak?
Prabhuji, I want to understand this concept once again. Sorry if maybe at the end that Pranam Sarva Vedeshu, how did you connect, Prabhuji? I just was lost in so much philosophy. So could you just help me to connect, or maybe at the end of the class?
No, I can just still repeat it. So Pranava Sarva Vedesu. Lord says from all the, I am in the Vedas, I am Pranam. Pranam means Omkar. So Omkar is the essence of the Vedas. All the Vedas emanate from Omkar. And this Omkar is expansion of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that's why, because Kali Yuga Vasis are not qualified to chant Omkar, not all the people, only Brahmanas are qualified. So in this way, when somebody is chanting Hare Krishna, actually he's getting the essence of the Vedas. So that is how when somebody chants Hare Krishna, he already got the essence of the Vedas. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Okay. But after compiling all the Vedic scriptures, what happens to Vyasadeva? We can read now. So please read text 26.
O twice born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people.
Yeah.
Text 27 translation. Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself.
Thank you. So we'll just point out some important point there. So after writing the Vedas, Vyasadeva himself was not satisfied. So if Vyasadeva himself was not satisfied, by the question that the readers would be satisfied. So that is how Vyasadeva could understand that something is seriously missing. And that is how he starts reflecting within himself. What is the cause of dissatisfaction? So please read 20-29.
I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual master, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and others, friends of the twice born, can see the path of religion.
Yeah. So in this way, Vyasadeva, he contemplates. He says, as far as my personal practice is concerned, I had undergone strict disciplinary vows, like chanting of the Gayatri, following the Varnashram Dharma properly. I have worshipped the Vedas unpretentiously. Worshipping means basically reading, going through them very much in detail. I worship the spiritual masters. Then the altar of sacrifice. So I've done all the yajnas properly. And also abide by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplinary succession by writing Mahabharata, which is in itself is like such a literature which can be compiled only by the expansion of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this way, I have shown compassion to everyone. I have personally done practice very nicely. So I've done Achar very nicely. I've done Prachar very nicely. So both Achar and Prachar I have done nicely. So then how is it possible that I am not yet satisfied? That means something is seriously missing. Yes. Please read 30th also.
I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas.
So although I have everything, I am well equipped by the Vedas, but something is seriously missing. And then he speaks this particular verse. So you can repeat after me. Kim va bhagavata dharma.
Kim va bhagavata dharma.
Na prayena nirupita. Priya paramahamsanam. Ta ev hi achyut priya. Please read the translation, and some devotee who has a Bhagavatam with him, he can also read the purport. Somehow I couldn't copy paste here.
This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect
Hare
beings
Krishna.
Mati, can you speak a little bit in mic? So you're audible, but from a distance. The voice volume is pretty low.
Is it any better?
No, Mataji. Maybe,
I will speak then, Prabhu, no problem.
okay, maybe someone else can speak.
Hare Krishna. Can
Yes,
I-
yes, please.
This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. The perfectly provided teacher. This dissatisfaction of which was being felt by Srila Vasudev is expressed here in his own words. This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him when Narada Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So in this way, he could get a clue that maybe I have not glorified devotion service enough. Kimva Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita. And this devotion service is very dear to the devotees of the Lord and the Lord himself. Priya Paramhamsa Nam, those are Paramhamsas, this is very dear to him. And Ta Evi Achyut Priya. So Lord and his devotees, it's dear to both of them, this devotion service. So maybe exclusively I have not written a scripture which glorified devotion service, and that is why I am not feeling satisfied. So can somebody quote a verse which proves that how, or with a direct verse which shows the practice of devotion service, one becomes satisfied? So very famous verse, Prabhupada's quote in many places. Okay, Diksha Mataji.
Sarvaipam Soparodharma. Is this the one? I can recite. Sarvaipam Soparodharma Yatha Bhakti Adhokshaje Ahetupiya Pratihata Yayatma Suprasidati.
So Yayatma Suprasidati Sarvaipam Soparodharma Yatho Bhakti Adhokshaje. So the devotion service Lord Adhokshaja was beyond the sense perception. So such a devotion service, when it's performed ahetuki, without any hetu, without any motive, and apratihata, without interruption, so ye atma suprasiditati. So then such a practical devotion service can give satisfaction. Otherwise, satisfaction cannot be achieved. So Vyasadeva himself was dissatisfied when he glorified everything except devotion service. So he was not satisfied with the question of readers getting satisfied. And when he was contemplating like that, at that time immediately Narada Muni arrived. So that is how the spiritual master arrived at the right time. Please read 32 and 33.
Text 32. As mentioned before, Narad reached the cottage of Krishnadvaipayan Vyas on the banks of Saraswati, just as Vyasadeva was regretting his defects. 33 translation. At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator.
So in this way, when he was dissatisfied like that, Narada Muni arrived there. So by that, Vyasadeva proves that even if somebody is very advanced in Krishna consciousness, one needs guidance. One needs guidance of the spiritual master. And that is how he got the guidance at the right time when he was feeling very dissatisfied. And also this also gives an indication that to become a spiritual master is very responsible. It's a very responsible position. One has to take care of the disciple. So Vyasadeva, as soon as he feels dissatisfied, Narada Muni arrives there. So that's a responsible position to take care that a disciple is nicely progressing in spiritual life. So especially now within ISKCON, Diksha Gurus have many disciples. It becomes practically difficult. But whom we have preached, so it's a responsibility to take care of them nicely. So it's not just about begetting children, it's also raising children. So similarly, it's not just about preaching, it is also about maintaining and seeing that the person is progressing in spiritual life nicely or not. So we can learn this from the example of Narada Muni. And as soon as Narada Muni comes, Vyasadeva gets up respectfully and worships him the way he would worship Brahmaji. So that's Guru Parampara, because knowledge was given to Brahma, from the Brahma it came to Narada, and then it came to Vyasadeva. So the way he would worship his Param Guru, he also worshipped that Guru. So that is how he respected Narada Muni. So that ends our chapter number 4. And further, how Narada Muni resolves his doubts, takes care of him, gives him the right direction. That is explained in chapter number 5. Okay, Dhananjay Prabhu, here's a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So there's before Srimad Bhagavatam, this Mahabharata has been written, and there in Bhagavad Gita, which is in Bhishma Parab, almost there are extensively Sripad Vyasadeva has spoken about Lord Krishna and all his quality and opulence and everything. So here still I don't understand then how still this Vyasadeva is dissatisfied that he has not glorified this Lord Krishna. Prabhuji, you can explain me.
Okay. See, not just here, even if we go through Brahman Puran, Brahma Vaivarta Puran, and many other places which were written before Srimad Bhagavatam or compiled before Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a good amount of glorification of Krishna. But then other things are also given. Like in Mahabharata, so Bhagavad Gita is like a medicine, but when kids don't like to take medicine, mother sometimes puts the medicine in the laddu and gives the laddu to the child, sweet to the child, and child takes the sweet, and within the sweet there is a medicine also. And that is how the medicine is administered inside. Similarly, Mahabharata, people read actually for hearing about actual Mahabharata, that is the fight. And when the conchs were blown, all the armies were gathered together, that time Bhagavad Gita was spoken. But in Mahabharata, there are a lot of other talks also about higher and lower dharmas. So like, we don't have much time. I would have explained very graphically. But within the fight, there were talks of dharma. The day Arjuna kills Jayadrath, or he was about to kill Jayadrath. So that time, the formation of the army was a needle formation. And Jayadrath was on the other side, Arjuna was on this side. And he penetrated through the whole army. Practically it took from morning till evening. But when Jayadrath was about to be killed, Arjuna was surrounded by so many arrows that he was not able to see Jayadrath. So that time they blew the conch shell, and Satyaki got an indication that Arjuna is in danger. So Satyaki, within few hours, he penetrated the whole army and came to Arjuna. Arjuna glorified him, congratulated that it took me whole day and you just came in a few hours. And then Satyaki had a fight with Bhurisrava. So I won't go in detail. It's very beautiful. Like, I won't say beautiful, but interesting detail is there. So Bhurisrava's father was beaten up by the Satyaki's father while Bhurisava's father was going to get a girl for marriage of Vasudeva. She was beaten very badly. So that's why Bhurisava's father prayed to the Lord to get Bhurisava, who can take revenge for his father's disrespect. And then they had a fight. So Bhurisava, Sataki was very tired, and because of that, Sataki fainted while they were fighting with mace. And Bhurisava took Sataki in the farms, and he was about to kill Sataki. So that time Krishna indicated that Arjuna, Sataki is your disciple, protect him. So immediately Arjuna took a crescent moon shaped arrow and cut off the hand of Bhurisrava. So then immediately Duryodhan, Sakuni, Karna, all of them, especially Duryodhan and Sakuni, they surrounded Arjuna and started telling, "Oh, beholder of Dharma, you are talking about Dharma. How is it that now you have cut off a hand of a person who never challenged you for a fight?" So this is a code of Dharma. Arjuna replied. He said, "Person who is taking shelter of me, it is my duty to protect him." And in this, they were an argument of Dharma. While they were having argument of Dharma, this Bhurisrava became very disgusted, and he sat in Samadhi to go back to Godhead, because he was also a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And at that time, Sataki suddenly got up. He took a sword and he chopped off the head of Bhurisrava. So then all the people again started saying, "Dhud, dhud, dhud, what is this? No, what is this nonsense? No, you are not following code of Dharma." So such a crucial time was going on, and there was a talk of Dharma. So in this way, Vyasdev, he has explained out lower and higher dharmas very nicely in Mahabharata. But then Bhagavad Gita, or the essence of devotion service, is not spoken very clearly even in Bhagavad Gita. Essence means in the sense that a lot of comparison is made. So initial talks, we find there is a good amount of argument between Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna says, "These are atatais, these are aggressors, you can kill them." Arjuna says, aggressors can be killed because according to Artha Shastras. But Dharma Shastras are higher than Artha Shastras. And according to Dharma Shastras, if aggressor is a Acharya, he should not be killed. So Dronachar and Bhishmadev, by that, according to Dharma Shastra, one cannot be killed. And then Krishna says, "Arjuna, you are a fool, you don't know. Gyan Shastras are higher. Gyan Shastras will explain that we are not body, we are soul." So Krishna talks about Gyan Shastras. Then he talks about Karma Yoga. He talks about Gyan Yoga. Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. And then he talks about Bhakti Yoga. And he explains how Bhakti Yoga is superior to all of them. And then he explains about Bhakti Yoga also. But main thing is, things are given so much in Mahabharata, such a big thing is there. And there is 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita which exclusively talk about Bhakti Yoga. So then there is a good amount of chances that person may be lost. And that is how even Mayavadis get an opportunity to misinterpret Bhagavad Gita. But when it comes to Srimad Bhagavatam, anybody will find great difficulty to misinterpret or pluck out devotion service from Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam from beginning till end is devotion service only. So although Vyasadeva had explained devotion service in many places, but nowhere it was explained so exclusively like Bhagavatam. Dharma projit ketavat narma parmo nirmacharanam sata. So karma, gyan, yoga, all these things are practically kicked out of Bhagavatam. So very little here and there, some mention is there in the second canto. Otherwise, Bhagavatam, we find it doesn't have, it just talks about bhakti. So he wanted to exclusively glorify devotion service, which he couldn't do in other scriptures. Garuna Purana also talks about devotion service, but then there is a talk about many other things, about karma yoga, etc., different punishments which one gets from Yamraj, transmigration of soul. So a lot of things are discussed in Garuna Purana. So everywhere things are not so exclusively explained the way it is explained in Bhagavatam. Okay, Dhananjay, I think I gave a very long answer.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was always very nectarian to hear from you. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah. Vrinda Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I haven't renamed myself. I'm Damodar, sorry. Prabhuji, I have two questions. One is regarding text 613. Prabhuji, like Shaunak Muni is accepting Suta Goswami as you are a perfect learned speaker. But on the same time, he was saying in 13, the translation of 13, we know that you are expert in the meanings of all subjects except some portion of the Vedas. So how he is judging that learned person and saying this line?
Okay. So that we explained in the purport we discussed yesterday. Because what he means to say is that things like recitation of the verses, etc., which are known to the Brahmanas, that you may not know. So, but apart from that, you know everything else. So you can nicely explain. Because already Suta Goswami has expressed his humility. That whatever I've heard, I will explain that much only. Yatha adhitam yatha matihi. So that's why he says, fine, whatever you heard, you will explain that. But we know that you already know the essence of the Vedas. So you just explain that. So it's not pointing out a defect. It is saying that although you may say that you don't know, but most of the things you know. So these questions are not very difficult. You can answer them.
Okay. In other way, he is again glorifying.
It's glorifying.
Okay.
So it's basically, like somebody says, I'm not a very good speaker.
Okay,
fine. You may not be a very good speaker, but you have heard so much, you are a realized soul, you can speak. So it is speaking like that. So the highlight is not the defect. The highlight is the other portion.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Prabhuji, one more question. As in Bhagavad Gita in 15.15, 15.15, it is said that Vedant Krit, I'm the compiler of the Ved. So Prabhuji, all has been compiled before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So what was that time duration?
Okay. So that was compiled before only. And Vyasdev could see, because things in Bhagavatam are also not given very chronologically. The scriptures never talk about very chronologically. So what we understand is, it seems that Bhagavatam was already written.
No idea about that. Perfect. We don't have to go in that. And the same, the conversation between Shaunak and Sut is going, and Parikshit Maharaj, the difference is not going, the conversation is not going side by side. There is a difference of time period.
So we had discussed, like Dhananjay Prabhu asked yesterday, that so it seems that Suta Goswami was established the next Acharya for speaking Puranas after this Rom Harsan Sutta. His father was killed by Balramji.
Probably that was not clear to me. I was not able to understand how you were correlating that.
Okay, so Dhananjay Prabhu was asking that, no, because Balram was there in that whole assembly. And when Suta Goswami was established at that place, it can't be Naimisaranya. If it was Naimisaranya, then Parikshit Maharaj, because he heard from Parikshit Maharaj, that is supposed to be before. And Parikshit Maharaj is grandson of Pandavas, who was born after the Pandavas. Pandavas are contemporary to Krishna. Pandavas retired after Krishna departed from this world. So from there we can understand that the assembly in which Rom Harsan Sutta was killed by Balram, or punished by Balram, so that assembly was separate from the assembly of sages of Naimisaranya.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you so much.
So one thing is about scriptures, because things are not explained very chronologically, so it sometimes creates confusion. Yes. Kanak Nayak, bro?
Hare Krishna, in the text 31 purport, Here it says that unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied.
Mhm.
I didn't understand this bit. The Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied.
So just a minute, what I'll do, I'll see the purport and then I'll go. So I'll share with all of you also. Just a minute.
Prabhuji, this is Prabodhini book. Sorry, this is Bhagavatam from GEV, the book which Garam Prabhu has written.
Which one? Which
This
I'm
book-
showing?
Yes, Prabhuji.
No, what I have done is I have taken translation purport and titles from Subodhini, certain things from Subodhini, and directly I have taken translation purports of Prabhupada. I've just taken titles from Subodhini.
Okay.
So just a minute, I'll now share with the purport with all of you. 1431. So you are talking about this line, no? The dissatisfaction which was being filled by Vasudeva is expressed herein in his own words. This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotion service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. So this defect was felt by him when Narad Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. So normal condition means natural condition for the living entities to serve Krishna with devotion service, and natural condition for the Lord is to accept that service. So when it is spoken about Lord, it is mentioning to Vyasadeva. That Vyasadeva is incarnation of the Lord, but even the incarnation of God, like Vyasadeva, he can't be satisfied unless until he is writing about devotion service. What to say of living entities like all of us. So that means ultimately it's bhakti which satisfies both the Lord and the living entities.
Okay, so here the word Lord is referring to Srila Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva, yes. Because he is incarnation of God. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And even for the Lord also, Lord is not satisfied with, even Supreme Lord is not satisfied with karmis, gyanis, yogis. So what is that verse? Bhaktya tato se Bhagavan gaja yut paya. Naivatma para pro ayam nidilava purno. Manam. Okay. So, this is another verse. So Prahlad Maharaj explains in his translation in this particular verse. Bhakta tato se Bhagavan. Tripa Satojas. Teja Bhava Prabhav. So Bhakti Yoga. Naradhanaya bhavanti parasya pumso bhaktya tatos Bhagavan gaja yut paya. So he gives the example of Gajendra. That Gajendra could satisfy the Lord by bhakti, but Lord cannot be satisfied by dhana, by great wealth, high learning, etc. None of these things can satisfy the Lord. So that means both the Lord and living entities, both of them are satisfied by devotion service. And certainly this particular Lord is certainly referring to Vyasadeva, but even Lord is also not satisfied by other things. He is satisfied only by devotion service. Okay? Kanakpur?
Yes.
Diksha Mataji, she had a hand raise.
Yes, Prabhuji, I wanted to ask about millennium, because many times devotees ask, but I'm not clear with this concept millennium. Am I, like yesterday we had discussed.
Okay. So you have confusion about millennium word, or you have confusion about these yugas?
Prabhuji, yesterday what was the topic going on, that there was overlapping, and like full overview, if you can just little bit give.
Okay. So there, in general, Satyuga comes, then Dwapar Yuga comes, then Treta Yuga comes, and then Kali Yuga comes. But in this particular yuga cycle, once in day of Brahma, Satyuga comes, then Treta Yuga comes, then Dwapar Yuga comes, and then Kali Yuga comes, which indicative that Krishna is now going to appear. And also indicative of Vyasdev, that he would be incarnation of the Lord. So that is how this is something which is out of trend, that was mentioned yesterday. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Madhusudan Vishnu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, done with pranam.
Hare. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, in regards to this, what you mentioned now, I just wanted to clarify because I did some research and I found that no Acharya other than Srila Prabhupada has given this kind of explanation about the interchange of yugas. If you look at Mahabharata and other scriptures also, even Surya Siddhanta, they always say that the yugas, they come in the order Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. So I just want to know from you that is there some other evidence other than just the BBT purport of this particular information of interchanging of yugas and this happening once in a day of Brahma? You know, because if people ask us and they say it's not given anywhere in the commentaries of previous acharyas, then we need to have a strong evidence to back what we are saying. So do you know from your study or have you heard about it anywhere?
Okay. So did you went through the Sarsandarbhas also?
I went through Vishwanath Chavi Thakur's commentary, Jiv Goswami's, and then I asked another Sanskrit scholar from our movement, and he also went through so many commentaries of acharyas. Nowhere it's up to our experience, we could not find anywhere. Even this concept of, yugas interchanging, that also nowhere it's mentioned. So just wanted to know your thought on this.
Yeah, so I also didn't find, but certainly I can ask many of the senior devotees also.
Yes.
So I'll ask them and I'll get back to you.
That will be very helpful, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Somebody knows here? Somebody has done some research on this topic? Okay. So I'll get back to you. I'll check with the other devotees.
Definitely, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go to 1.5. So after that, we'll see that how Narad Muni, he's going to resolve. So we'll just see the summary of chapter number 5. So that's called Narada's instructions for Vyasdev on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasdev's despondency is explained in first 7 texts. Then Narad Muni does the diagnosis. He understands and it tells about the importance of describing Krishna's pastimes, why it is so important. And then in order to prove that how devotion service is the essence and why Lord has to be exclusively glorified, why there has to be literature which exclusively glorifies devotion service is required. That Narad Muni speaks from his own evidence from his own previous life. Why? Because somebody may say that we can get Krishna only through, or when we can practice devotion service only when we go through yoga ladder. Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Ashtanga yoga, then we'll do practice bhakti yoga. Narad Muni says no, bhakti yoga in itself is potent enough to take a person from a very lower condition to the highest level. Like the qualification, there's no qualification for practicing bhakti. So he explains from his own life. So he explains about his previous life, and then he gives advice to Vyasdev. So that is explained in chapter number 5. Is Sachinandan Haripro?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yesterday and today I've been seeing that you have this wonderful way of putting the whole chapter in form of chart. So can we request you that if you have this type of charts for all the chapters, of the Bhagavatam?
I have, not for all the chapters of Bhagavatam, but at least for Canto 1, Canto 2 I have. So you want to get that? So I'll
If
share.
possible. If possible.
Yes, I can share.
Fine. You are part of WhatsApp group, Prabhuji?
I'm not a part of WhatsApp group, but what I'll do is I'll just put my number in this chat box. So you can give me a message and I'll send you.
Okay.
Or Prabhuji, you can share it to me. I will put it in the WhatsApp group. That is also possible.
Okay, I can do that. So but just give me 1-2 days time in order to just make the whole document, because currently our Rath Yatra services are going on, so I have a little pressure because of that. So in 1-2 days I can send.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Madhusudan Vishnu Prabhu has hand raised from before or again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. Hare. So now we'll enter in chapter number 5. So just a minute, I'll share with all of you. So verse number 1 to 5 talks about Narada Muni instructing Vyasdeva about his despondency. So please read text number 1.
Chapter 5, Narad's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasdev. Text 1, translation. Suta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narad, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed a rishi amongst the Brahmanas, Ved Vyasa. Text 2, translation. Addressing Vyasadev, the son of Parashar, Narad inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
Could you find something similar in Bhagavad Gita also? Yes, Diksha Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, when in chapter 2, Krishna started speaking, so he asked Arjuna the same question on this.
Yeah, he asked similar question. Thank you. Yes, Madhusudan.
When Arjuna said to Krishna that I don't want to fight, then there is a word in verse 2.10, Prahasaniva Bharata. Krishna smiled. So same thing here, Narada also smiles at Vyasadeva.
Yes. So the word is Prahasan Eva. Prahasan Eva means, Hasan means laughing. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes there that Krishna actually wanted to laugh like anything. That you are speaking such words of dharma and you are saying, I'll not fight. So Krishna wanted to laugh, but being a spiritual master, he couldn't laugh. Because spiritual master, disciple comes with a problem and spiritual master starts laughing. So then disciple can't go anywhere. So as a friend, he wanted to laugh, but as spiritual master, he couldn't laugh. She suppressed his laughing and he just smiled. Prahasan Eva. So there he was smiling. So same thing we find here in this case also. Narada Muni was smiling. And also, Krishna there in a way chastised Arjuna. Kutasta kasmalamidam visame samupasthitam anardustam aswargam akirtim karma Arjuna. And similarly, we find here Narada Muni is also in one way chastising Vyasadeva. Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? Because the difference between Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, big difference is there. Because Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, they are on the platform of body and mind. Because they deal with 3 modes of material nature. Whereas Bhakti is transcendental. Golokera Prem Dhan Harinam Sankirtan. It is imported material from the spiritual world. It's totally spiritual. So that's why he is chastised in a way that this is the actual cause of your dissatisfaction. So even the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is accepting a chastisement from his spiritual master. Please read text 3 and text 4.
Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled. And there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained. Text 4, you have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
So then he starts not just chastising him, he also appreciates his previous work. So that's how it's not that spiritual master just chastises, he also encourages. So he encourages Vyasadeva by saying that as far as inquiries are concerned, your inquiries are full. That means you have perfectly behaved like a disciple. And as a disciple, your studies were also well fulfilled. So you have done that work also very nicely. And as a preacher, you have also done the great and wonderful work of compiling Mahabharata. So all these are worthy of glorification, like which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences, especially the lower and higher dharmas are explained so nicely in Mahabharata. So in this way, when it comes to the lower dharmas, which is lower one, which is higher one, like dharmas according to the dharma sastras, artha sastras, all these things very nicely explained in Mahabharata. And when it comes to Gyan sastras, that also you have nicely explained. You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. So like we find Isupnishad, which is the last chapter, chapter number 40 of Sukla Yajurveda. So there, how karma and jnana have to practice nicely together, that is being explained. So after explaining all these things, doing such a hard work, why should you be despondent? So already he has spoken that all these things are related to body and mind. That's why you're despondent. And then Vyasadeva accepts. He accepts the mistake. So you can read 5th, text number 5.
Text 5, Sri Vyasadeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I, therefore, caution you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge, due to your being the offspring of one, Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother.
So Vyasadeva, he says that he accepts. He says, whatever you have spoken is perfectly correct. There's nothing wrong in that. So similarly, when we are chastised, first thing is to accept. Yes. But despite all this, I'm not satisfied. Really, I have done all this good work, but I'm not dissatisfied. That's why please tell me root cause of my dissatisfaction. Because you have unlimited knowledge, because you're offspring of Brahma, and Brahma has no mundane father and mother. Prabhupada explains in one of the lectures that although Lakshmi is always massaging the lotus feet of the Lord, but when Lord wants to produce a child, he doesn't need the agency of Lakshmi. A lotus is born from his navel, and then Brahma is born there. There's a Brahma is also something called Swambhu. Swambhu means one who is self-born. So self-born. So self-born means he doesn't have mundane father and mother. Lord is his father, mother, everything. And being empowered by Brahma and being a great devotee of the Lord, Narada Muni has unlimited knowledge. Because Brahma himself says that his own words cannot go wrong. Na bharati me anga mrasopa lakshate, na vekachan me manaso masagatihi, na me risikani patanti asatpate, janmo hadav kantata dhito harihi. In the second canto he speaks. Na bharati me anga mrasopa lakshate. As far as my words are concerned, words, body and mind, they can't go wrong. Nave kachan mein manaso mein sagati. My mind cannot go in the wrong direction. It cannot go in the direction of adharma. Na me risi kasi patanti asatpate. As far as my senses are concerned, they can't engage in sense gratification, they can't go in wrong direction. So whether it is about my senses, it's about my words, it's about my mind, why none of these things can go in wrong direction? Why? Because I've embraced the lotus feet of the Lord within my heart. So similarly, Narada Muni, because he's totally absorbed in Krishna, whatever he speaks is right. It can't go wrong. So that's why Vyasadeva glorifies Narada Muni. So that's why he says that you have the ability to point out the root cause of my dissatisfaction. One who is fully satisfied can point out the root cause of the dissatisfaction. So you read 6th also? Translation.
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, so please read 6th.
My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the Creator and Destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature.
So because you are worshipping the Supreme Lord who is transcendent to the three modes of material nature, that is why you can't go wrong. That is why everything which is mysterious is known to you. Because when one is connected to Krishna, especially always connected to Krishna, then one is above three modes of material nature. What is that verse in Bhagavad Gita which says that if somebody is always practicing devotion service, he's transcended to three modes? Very famous verse quoted by Prabhupada many times.
Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuya kalpate.
Thank you. So mam chayo avicharena, avyabichar. That means one is not having vyabhichar. Vyabhichar means he is not engaging karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga, anything. And one practice only bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga sevata sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuya kalpate. One becomes free from three modes of material nature, and one is on the transcendental platform. So that's why when somebody is chanting Hare Krishna, somebody is absorbed in devotion service, one is taking shelter of Bhagavatam, one is absorbed in Bhagavatam, one is actually about three modes of material nature. So that is how you can't go wrong, because you are always absorbed in devotion service. So that is how he glorifies Vyasadeva. And then he tells that how you can dissipate my dissatisfaction. So please read text 7.
Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. Please therefore find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows.
So it seems as if Vyasadeva is glorifying Narada Muni as God as Supreme Personality of Godhead. but that is because of his connection with the Supreme Lord. So because he's connected with the Supreme Lord, he can understand the mind of the disciple also. So he can understand the exact deficiency. So although he is not super soul, but because he's connected to the super soul, he has that ability to understand the deficiency and correct the deficiency. And after hearing this admission from Vyasdev, now Narada Muni starts explaining the root cause of dissatisfaction from text number 8. So these are like very, very powerful verses from text 8 to 22. So for text 8, you can repeat. Sri Narada Vacha
Srinarada
Bhavatánudit Prayam
Prayam
Yaso Bhagavato Amalam
Amalam
Yene Vaso Natusyeta Manne Taddarsanam Khilam. Please read the translation. And you can read the
Sri
purport
Narada
also.
said,
Yeah.
purport. Sri Narada said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless. Purport. The eternal relation of an individual soul with the Supreme Soul, personality of Godhead, is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the eternal Master. The Lord has expended himself as living beings in order to accept long service from them, and this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literature, ending with the Vedanta philosophy. But none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the Absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the last word in transcendental realization. The Absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized Supersoul, Paramatma, is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of his glories. The compiler of the Vedanta Darshan is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled, although he is the author. So, what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self-same author.
So dry philosophical speculation, even on the transcendental subject matter of the absolute truth, has very little attraction. So this is a verse. So one, there's a beauty of Prabhupada purports that generally Prabhupada directly quotes the verses, or he quotes the translation of the verses. Naskarmam apechyat vibhava varjitam na sobete jnanam anandanam kuta punas saswada badram iswari na charpitam yadapi akaranam. So this verse is Naskarmam. Naskarmam means Gyan. Api achyut bhava varjitam. If it is not in touch with achyut bhava, with devotional service, na sobete jnanam anandanam, it doesn't look very, very attractive. Kuta pudas saswat abhadram isware. And what to say of karma, which is inauspicious from the beginning. Inauspicious from the beginning in the sense that it doesn't, it is always has a tendency to entangle a person. na charpatam yadapya karanam. So in this way, it is devotional service which is attractive to the heart and can satisfy a person. So it has that ability to satisfy the heart. So you are asking for the verse number. So I have to do some, I have to find it. I'm very weak in remembering the numbers, although I remember the lot of verses. So maybe in the next class, I'll tell you the verse number. I'm in a different place actually. So Bhagavatam and other books are not there with me. So that is how he says that because you have not glorified devotion service enough. You have spoken about Krishna, but you have not written any exclusive book on devotion service. And that is the reason you are not satisfied. Although you explained about all the other 4 goals. So please read 9th.
Although great sage, Prabhuji, please read.
Madhu, you can maybe continue.
Okay, although great sage, you have very broadly described the 4 principles beginning with religion. Is this 9? Okay. Beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So you explained out dharma, artha, kama, moksha very nicely. But you are not exclusively glorified Krishna. So even in Mahabharata, there is a lot of details of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. By doing dharma, one gets money, artha. From artha, one can get sense objects. One can do sense gratification with the sense objects. And then ultimately one can look for liberation. But when it comes to devotion service, you have not explained Pancham Purusartha, devotion service very exclusively. Okay, Parth Sarthi Matai. Did you say Achyut Bhav? Devotion service.
Yes, Prabhu. Was that? Did you say it was Achyuta Bhav? Was the Sanskrit for?
Yes. Yes. So Achyut Bhav Varjitam. Varjitam means it is not there. Achyut Bhav Varjitam. Yes. And then there's a famous verse worth remembering. A very beautiful verse. Text number 10. So then you can read translation purport also. So you can repeat this after me. Nayat vachas chitra padam harer yaso.
Nayat vachas chitra padam harer yaso.
Jagat pavitram praganir karhichit.
Jagat pavitram praganir karhichit.
Tadvayasam tirtham usanti manasa.
Tadvayasam tirtham usanti manasa.
Nayatra hamsa nirmanti usikshaya.
Nayatra hamsa niramanti
Shikshaya.
Please read translation.
Translation. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly person to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Purport. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feathers because of their different mental attitudes. The fruitive workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas the all-perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruitive workers take pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural science, natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers in variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between the two classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it is not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different types of men of different mentality. Mostly, the market literatures which attract men of the cross categories are literatures containing refused remnants of sensuous topics. They are generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross body and subtle body. They are full of subject matters described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. Yet, with all that, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry and prose on any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. These literatures, in the modes of passion and ignorance, are distributed under different levels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being. And thus, the swan-like spirituality, advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually advanced men are called also Manasa because they always keep up the standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids fruitive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material, egoistic mind. Social literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians who are completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure are all dolls of the material energy. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. According to Swami Sridhar, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. But literatures which describes the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramhansas who have grasped the essence of human activities. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So this particular verse talks about the mundane literatures. Na yat vachas chitra padam hare reso. So when it comes to mundane literatures, even if they are well decorated by various alankaras and beauty of grammar, etc., chitra padam. But if it doesn't have Hare Yaso, it doesn't have the glories of Lord Hari, which purifies the entire world. Jagat Pavitram Pavidit Karichit. So then such literatures, which doesn't have glories of the Supreme Lord, it becomes a tirtha for crows. Tadvayasam tirtham osanti manasa. So crows take pleasure in garbage where Hansas don't go, where the swan-like personalities don't go. Because a person is interested in literature depending on one's inclination. So once I remember we were sitting in our terrace of Brahmachari Ashram. So then one devotee started glorifying. He was saying that this whole place of Bengal, especially Calcutta and Kharagpur and all these places, these come in Gaur-Mandal Bhumi. So one of our devotees from IIT Kharagpur, he was asking, Prabhu, what did you say? Kharagpur also comes in Gaur-Mandal Bhumi. Yes, Kharagpur also comes in Gaur-Mandal Bhumi. So then he asked, Prabhu, but so that way it is there in the spiritual world also? It is there in the spiritual world, this devotee said. So then he asked him, is there IIT also in the spiritual world? So then our senior devotee, actually Asra Gaurangpur was there. So he was telling this story about the crows and the swans. So crows are the swans. Where do you stay? So they said that now we stay in the Mansarovar. So Mansarovar, what is there? Beautiful lakes are there, lotuses are there, and swans can play in the lotuses. And then crow says, all these things are there, but all, sorry, not crows, it was, what do you say, bagula, cranes. So crane said, so are there fishes also? No, no, fishes are not there. Then what are the use of going there? So you are saying, even in the spiritual world, you want to go to IIT, and agar paper work so hard for cracking IIT JEE. So similarly, the literatures which glorify Krishna are well glorified by those who are Paramhamsas. But people who are like crows, they just want to see sense gratification there. And even if they see at those literatures, they try to find some sensuous topics there. And that is the reason devotees are prohibited to hear from non-devotees. Because even non-devotees, when they speak about Bhagavatam and devotional literatures, they explain them in a very sensuous way. And that is the reason we find, if we see the paintings of Krishna art book and the paintings of which outside people make, there's a great difference. We generally don't become agitated when we see the Ras Leela pictures made by our devotees. But outside people, they make as if Krishna is very young and all the gopis are very young. So even those pictures, also paintings, also sometimes agitate. And what to say of when they explain the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So very long before, when I was a student, so I was going in train. So there was a Mayavadi who was explaining this Mohini Murti pastime. So he's explaining in such a sensuous way what to do. Lord Shiva was there, Mohini Murti was there, and Mohini Murti, Lord Shiva was running behind the Mohini Murti. So Mohini Murti had no option than to run away. I was so upset. I was feeling like I should beat this person. But he was in the garb of a sadhu. I couldn't do anything. So those are not devotees. They can't glorify or experience that devotion aspect. So they're interested in sensuous topics. And they also explain in a very sensuous way. So that is how materialistic literatures, they're appreciated by people who are materialistic. And those are Paramhamsas, they are interested in spiritual literatures. So crows go to the garbage, and Paramhamsas, or those who are swans, they take pleasure in the lotuses, the nectar of the lotuses. And how spiritual literatures are so glorious, although they may not be Chitrapadam, they may not be decorated with a lot of alankaras. It's explained in text number 11. So this is also a very beautiful verse. So here also we can read the translation purport. And this is one of the famous verses, which is also there in many preludes of Bhagavatam, many places. It's quoted. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo.
Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo.
Yasmin prati slokam abhatvati api.
Yasmin prati slokam abhatvati.
Namani anantasya yaso ankitani yat.
Namani anantasya yaso ankitani yat.
Sinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha.
Sinvanti gayanti grananti sadavaha.
Please read the translation as well as purport.
On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Please read the purport.
It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field. Yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling.
Yeah, please continue.
The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between two countries, China and India, over land, which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly there is no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on side provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world.
So just a minute. Okay. Because India
has failed, I couldn't find it, okay. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it is a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques. and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success.
Thank you.
When they are,
Actually, it's very, so we'll read up to here only. So we find here Prabhupada is so confident that if Srimad Bhagavatam is propagated, then problems of the world can be solved. And he gives a very beautiful example here. That when there is a fire in the house, so even if other people are not able to understand the same language, but through gestures one can express. And literally speaking, same thing happened with Prabhupada when he went to the West. So people were not able to understand his English, which had a heavy Bengali accent. And what to say of the concept? Now for people of the West to understand that there's some God who is blue in color, who herds the cows, it was very difficult to understand. But they had faith that this particular person has come, he's not cheating us. He's giving the right message. And that is how they could accept Krishna consciousness. Like once Prabhupada gave 3-day lecture on Govardhan Leela. And all 3 days, he was condemning demigod worship like anything. So after 3 days, one devotee in the audience raised a hand. And he asked one question. So Prabhupada said, what is the question? Prabhupada, what is this demigod? So after 3 days of lecture on condemning demigod worship, he was asking, what is demigod? And Prabhupada said, it is very difficult subject matter, you don't have to worry about it. So there was an audience who couldn't understand exactly what Prabhupada was speaking. But because it was spoken with that spirit of spreading Krishna consciousness, that spirit of compassion, so people could experience that compassion. So that's why Prabhupada is very, very confident. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the incarnation of the Lord. And if the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is broadcasted, 100% sure it will create Janatagah Viplavo. So these are like very strong words. If you see the words which Prabhupada has chosen, although Prabhupada writes in the very humbly in the purport that it may be having a lot of discrepancies, but such strong words are there. Full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. It's like heavily criticizing the modern civilization. And it's going to create a revolution. Each word is going to create a revolution. So that is how, although there may be, grammatically there may be some mistakes, but they are accepted by those who are sadhus. Sranvanti gayanti garanti sadhava. Those are sadhavas, those are sadhus, they accept such literatures. So anywhere Lord is glorified, devotees accept that. And somebody was asking a reference, so this is the verse which I was quoting. Text number 12, it is here only. So you can repeat this verse also after me. This is also one of the very famous verses. Spirit is very well quoted by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Many places in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, he quotes this particular verse. So they are also worth memorizing. Neskarmyamapi achyudbhava varjitam.
Neskarmyamapi achyudbhava varjitam.
Na sobhate jnanamalam niranjanam. Uta punassa swadabhadramishware. Nachar pitam karma yadapi akaranam. Read the translation.
Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
Thank you. So neskarmyam means not performing karma. That is basically taking karma sannyas, or referring to Gyan Yoga. Api achyut bhava varjitam. If it doesn't have achyut bhav, it doesn't talk about Supreme Lord, the concept of Supreme Lord. Na sobate jnanam alam niranjanam. It doesn't touch the heart. It doesn't look very good. Then kuta posat saswat abhadram isware. And what to talk about karma yoga, which is painful from beginning only. Because for sense gratification, one has to work very hard in order to get the sense objects. And then in order to maintain the sense objects, also one has to work very hard. And the amount of gratification which one gets by enjoying sense objects is very less. So that's why from beginning only, karma is very, very painful. And it's transient. Transient in the sense that pleasure is very less. So that is how, what to say of that, nacha arpitam, one doesn't utilize it by offering to the Supreme Lord. Isware nacha arpitam. One doesn't arpit, one doesn't utilize it for devotion service. So karma, if it is not utilized for devotion service, jnana, if it doesn't have the touch of devotion service, it doesn't look good. That is how, whether you have glorified, my dear Vyasdev, karma yoga, or you have glorified jnana yoga, but you have not glorified bhakti yoga, which actually touches the heart. So that is what he's pointing out. So that's how they are very painful. Anyway, so that's explained in the purport also. So now we'll go to text number 30. We just go to translations now. So just a minute, I'll share. So these are like very famous verse, 10, 11, 12. Now read 13th.
Text 30. O Vyasdev, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the pupil in general from all material bondage.
Thank you. So this shows that you are qualified for writing about devotion service. You can write a literature about devotion service. Your good fame is spotless. So you never fell from the dharma, path of dharma. You followed your vows very strictly. You are situated in truthfulness. So you can't speak a lie. You can't write something wrong for with ulterior motives. So you are qualified for meditating on the pastimes of the Lord. So you can see the pastimes of the Lord in trance, and you can work for liberation of people in general from material bondage. So that's how writing Vedic literatures, it's not like no anybody and everybody can just write like that. But those who are pure souls, they can write. So you are qualified. And you can meditate on them and you can find them also. Otherwise, there can be mistakes. Please read 14th.
Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place.
So if you write something separate from that, it will just agitate the mind. Because it is only devotion service which totally pacifies the mind. Other things, they just agitate the mind. Because mind is store place or storehouse of unfulfilled desires. So any sort of sense gratification, or attraction to sense gratification or aversion to sense gratification, it just agitates the mind. So that is how just explain our devotion service. And then this is also a famous verse. I think one J is missing here. Yeah. So you can repeat this verse after me. जुगोत्सिपं धर्मे अनुशासतः स्वभावरक्तस्य महान् व्यतिक्रमः यद्वाक्यतो धर्म इतितरास्थितो न मन्यते तस्य निवारणं जनः Translation.
The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
Thank you. So jugupsitam dharma kshetre anusasataha swabhava raktasya mahan vyatikramaha. So, my dear Vyasdev, anyway people are attracted to enjoy sense gratification. So that's very, very natural for people. On top of that, you have allowed them to enjoy sense gratification in the name of religion. So when people are encouraged to enjoy sense gratification in the name of religion, then they will become so much stooped in sense gratification that they will not care for prohibitions. So that is how, although you are saying, I will teach them dharma by which they get artha, and then they enjoy sense gratification, then they become disgusted with sense gratification, and then they can look towards liberation. But they won't look. They won't look towards liberation. They will just become stooped in sense gratification. And they won't care for the prohibitions. So you are thinking you have done good to the people, but actually you have not done good to the people. So we find so many examples like that within India, especially when different type of festivals are there. Somebody can give some examples how we see that people enjoy a lot of sense gratification in the name of religion, and then they don't care for religion. Okay, Diksha Mataji, she had.
Prabhuji, when there is Shivratri, because though he is a demigod, but the thing is that people start drinking, and in the name of that festival goes like this. But it is just understandable that it goes in a wrong manner.
Yeah. So later on, people, they start too much getting intoxicated. They take different type of intoxications. Yes, Sachinandan Haripu.
Especially during Garba, we see boys and girls mingling with each other in the name of religion.
Yeah. So in Gujarat and Maharashtra, we find, so in the name of doing Ras Leela, so Prabhupada said it's not Ras Leela, it is Raskal Leela. So they end up in doing something wrong. Yes, Damodar Bhakti Mataji.
Prabhuji, in generally UP side, when Navdurga come, so generally ladies start doing Navrate, Kirtan like that. And in that, they are more interested in their outward appearance and dancing, and they don't know why they are performing all this.
Yeah.
They get ready with the saris and all that.
Yes. Not just that, people begin with Devi songs and then slowly it moves to the movie songs.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So I don't know whether Durga would like it, only people like it. And actually speaking, if that really Devi Durga would come there, she would run away from that place. But devotees don't want to hear the movie songs.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's not for pleasing Devi. Yeah, Devdetta Dhananjaya.
Yeah, in Maya, I mean, Bengal actually there is Kali Mata, and there is also called Bali. So people just kill the animals and they enjoy, drink a lot, and in the name of religion, they feel that this is right. I mean, that way it is.
So they don't follow the proper rules and regulations. They just keep eating meat. So they don't bother for prohibitions.
Yeah, I mean, Mayapur, so I am.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Duti Mataji.
Yes, Praji, like in Vrindavan as well on Kartik Purnimas, we can see some Shahidas, who dress up as gopis and as Krishna, and they enjoy with each other. Like, they outwardly perform a Ras Leela dance. So, like, it's in the name of religion, although they don't understand the concept.
So in the name of religion, they have so-called Ras Leela. So Prabhupada said it's not
Yes,
Ras Leela, it's Ras Leela.
Ras Leela.
So we find in many places. So that is how we find that this is what exactly Narad Muni is pointing out, that people in the name of religion would just enjoy sense gratification. And sometimes people actually, even literally grossly also, they don't care. So I remember when I was just long before, so I was coming after preaching, so it was around 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the night. So I got down in one bus stand in Satragachi in Calcutta. So that people were having this Vishwakarma puja. So Vishwakarma was there. And actually speaking, after coming to Bengal, I saw Vishwakarma for first time. Especially in the western side, not so much demigod worship is there. So people were worshipping Vishwakarma, and some movie songs were going on. People had their open shirts. They were smoking and blowing off the smoke in front of Vishwakarma. So I was really wondering whether these people are worshipping Vishwakarma or they're torturing Vishwakarma. Smoking right in front of the deities. So actually speaking, people don't bother. So they enjoy sense gratification, even sinful things, in the name of religion. And that's why Narad Muni said that Vyasdev, this dharma, artha, kama, moksha won't work. You have to exclusively teach people to practice devotion service. And not just in Vedic culture, we find all over the world, in the name of religion, people enjoy sense gratification. So like so much of drinking and illicit sex happens during Christmas Day. So in other religions also we find that people don't bother for religion. So that's exactly what. Yeah. So now we'll go to the 16th. So now what you should do? So that's why don't preach about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Then what should you do? He tells in text number 16.
The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So that's why don't think that slowly I will raise the consciousness of the people, because only those who have vairagya can practice yukta vairagya. Only those who are free from material happiness, they desire to understand the spiritual values. So to enjoy sense gratification, at the same time not become attached to sense gratification, is very, very difficult task. So that's why directly give devotion service. Because for all other yogas, qualification is required. What is the minimum qualification for all other yogas? Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, Ashtanga yoga, etc. Damodar Bhakti Mataji is answering. What's the question?
I was not answering, but in Jnana Yoga qualification, a person should have that much education to read all the Vedic literature, scriptures.
Yeah. So that is there. So one has to be in goodness. And there is some minimum qualification for all the yogas. What is that minimum qualification? Yes, Vishnu Kanta Mataji, you wanted to answer?
Actually, control of mind.
Okay, yeah, control of mind and senses. At least person should have ability to practice Varnashram Dharma. unless until one is practicing varnashram dharma, there's no question of karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga or anything. That's a basic minimum qualification required. And when people don't know about varnashram dharma, where the question of varnashram dharma, like especially whenever I take Bhakti Shastri for first 6 chapters, many devotees ask questions. Prabhu, he's going to office, he does that, he does that. So is he practicing karma yoga? Is he practicing some other yoga? Karma yoga means karma. Karma means actions according to varnashram dharma. And for doing actions according to varnashram dharma, one should know what is varnashram dharma. One should know dharma shastras. So unless until person has knowledge of dharma shastras, how can he practice dharma shastras? That's why without being a brahmachari, one cannot be a grasta. Only brahmachari becomes a grasta. And brahmachari life means student life. One learns about dharma. When one learns about dharma, then one practices dharma. So practically speaking, the knowledge of dharma shastra like Manu Smriti, Parasara Smriti is not there anywhere. And where the question of even practicing grasa dharma, there's no possibility only. So when it comes to other yogas, there's no foundation for practicing other yogas. But as far as bhakti is concerned, bhakti anybody can practice. No qualification is required for bhakti. Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkasa abhir sumbhayavana khasadayah ye anne cha papa yadapasraya sraya suddhanti tasme prabhavasve namaha. So Kirat, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkas, all these people who are not fit to be a part of varnashram system, ye anne cha papa, these and other people who are not fit to be in varnashram dharma, yad apasraya sraya. So if they take shelter of one who has taken shelter of Lord Vishnu is so powerful that he purifies one who comes in contact with him. And even these people become powerful enough to purify other people. So one who has taken shelter of those who have taken shelter of Lord Vishnu, Suddhanti Tasme, they all can become purified. Prabha Vaishnava Nama, because Lord Vishnu is very powerful. So that is how, because bhakti doesn't need any qualification, that is the only thing which can be practiced by people in general. Other karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga is very difficult. And that's how Narada Muni encourages Vyasadeva to write Srimad Bhagavatam and compile Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and further we'll discuss in the next class. Till then, I have just homework for devotees. If they have time, maybe they can go through these 2 exercises. So just a minute, I'll display it. So devotees can do both these homeworks. And then if you get time, so if you complete the lesson number 3, then we'll have these exercises. So maybe some devotee can just take the snapshot and post it in the group. So before we meet in the next class, we can just do it. So somebody can take snapshot. You just let me know.
I have taken it, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So please post it in the group.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll meet next week.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can we have the OBA for because we are almost halfway through.
Okay, so what I'll do is tomorrow I'll send it to some devotee and it will be posted in the group.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Diksha Mataji, had she some query or some
Yes,
comments?
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, regarding this Varnashram Dharma, like you had quoted, Prabhuji, despite doing Bhakti Shastri, I still have this doubt in my with me that Varnashram, regarding the Varnashram Dharma, that some devotee had asked me that, Mataji, like how is it that how to identify our dharma if we are in student life, like which dharma we call Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These are the four varnas. Brahman, 4 varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. 4 varnas are there and 4 ashrams are there. So 4 varnas, how do we identify which what is our nature? Because as a bhakta, are we in this line of Brahman, or a Kshatriya? So my answer was that as per our nature, it will be revealed to you. So, but I was not confident with what I answered at that time. So can you please help me with this?
Okay. So actually speaking, the propensities are known in due course of time. And there are a lot of brahmacharis here. So they have this experience. So generally people, when they would enter in brahmachari ashram, what would happen is that in due course of time, person himself and even the temple authorities would understand the propensity of a person. Like once person is there in a brahmacharya ashram for 8-10 years, authorities knows which service to give to him. Person knows what service I can do nicely. So it becomes very clear in due course of time. So till then, different services are given to a person in brahmacharya ashram. And whatever service you can do for very long, and one can happily tolerate the inconveniences. That is the propensity. Certain services we can do for short time, but the certain service we can do for very long time. So certain services we can do for very long time, then they are the propensities. It's like it takes time to identify. We can't expect it to be identified in a few years. So, but in due course of time, one can identify. So generally people would enter in brahmacharya ashram at the age of 5. Nowadays we enter at 25. So that becomes difficult. When people would enter at the age of 5, by the time they become 15, they understand. Yeah. Could I answer the question?
Yes, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, regarding what you raised in the class, that one should have the ability to practice at least the Varnashram Dharma. So what I could understand is that he should follow like 25 years of Brahmacharya Ashram, then the Grasta, and then the Vanprastha. Is this point what you raised in the class?
Okay, so what I was saying, whatever the Varna and Ashram one may be in, there are certain duties to be performed. One should take care of those duties. Like for now, certainly people don't know about the duties themselves. So earlier in the Gurukuls, people were taught the duties of a brahmachari, grasta, vanprastha, sannyasi, brahman, kshatriya, vaisya, sudra. And that is how people would practice them. And nowadays also we find, even although the details may not be known, but the concept is still the same. The concept is that if you don't take care of family nicely, you don't take care of wife and children nicely, or one neglects one's job, then it affects the devotion service. If one neglects devotion service, then other things get affected. So that is how there has to be proper balance. So maybe other devotees can keep the question for the next class, because it's getting over time. I'll just answer this question. So please keep it for the next class. So I'll just answer this with one quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bhaktarlok, he gives a 3-point formula for smoothest and fastest progress in devotion service. Anybody who follows these formulas, these 3 things, he can make very steady and smooth progress in devotion service. So he says, if one takes care of one's varnashram dharma very properly, that is, one takes care of job, duties towards the body, duties towards other people. So one takes care of varnashram dharma very properly. Second is, one slowly cultivates mode of goodness. So like taking prasad in mode of goodness, keeping the environment clean, following the Vaishnava etiquette. So that helps us in cultivating mode of goodness. And third is, one does one's sadhana very diligently and very properly. So anybody who follows these 3 things, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes there that one can make very steady and fast progress in devotion service. So anyway, there's something missing, and ISKCON leaders are trying to educate our devotees and focus on the duties of Varna and Ashram. Especially Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj has given a lot of elaborate lectures on that. Duties of husband, duties of wife, and duties of different Varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaisya, Sudra. So Prabhupada has written about them in last 5 chapters of 7th canto in those purports. And many other devotees, they talk about it very, very elaborately. So this training is still there. I would say still ISKCON is working on that. And hopefully in due course of time, all our devotees will get trained. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Pranam.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll answer the next two questions in the next class. So we'll begin with the question answer only in the next class. Okay, Mataji and Devdatti Dhandev.
Okay.
So we'll end here. Kandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vanchakalpadrubhasya Kripa Sindhuyasya Patitaham Vaishnavamyo Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.